Welcome to Biggest Geekus, Shorties edition. We're your host. I'm Randy.
I'm Joe.
This is our special mini episode we'll do from time to time to answer call-in questions along with any comments about things that come to mind. This is the third episode of our Shorties, and today's date is Sunday, March 14th, 2021. So what's up, brother?
Well, we got a pile of messages from Jason again.
Sweet, I love it.
And we love it.
Keep bringing it, dude. We love it.
He didn't quite make it to 16 this time. He made it only to 13.
Well,
He's got to try harder.
He does, because I'm a little disappointed in him. I was expecting 16, but that's all right.
Right. And just a programming note.
Mm-hmm.
Our last Shorties wasn't.
No?
It was an hour.
No, it identifies as a shorty.
Oh, gotcha.
It's 2021, bro. Come on.
Gotcha.
Don't be
my fault.
I was going to say,
my fault.
Are you labeling my episodes?
I am assuming.
Dang it.
I am
assuming my length. Assuming my length.
New comment.
Hello, suckers. All right.
So what I'm going to do is hit the play. Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah, you got him ready this time, Joe. Am I going to be able to hear this?
Let me get that screen share going.
I definitely want to be able to blast Jason appropriately, so make sure I can hear it. My man, Jason.
This.
Probably going to chat a little bit too. We got a couple of things we're going to eventually going to answer. I've been sending out a couple of comments on Tinkars. Oh, you're starting it up? So I need to shut up.
Ooh. No. You don't need to shut up.
I was just saying, we've been talking about high level with, I've been talking with high level with Eric Tinkar and his podcast. He did something with Joe the Lawyer. I haven't finished it yet, but I think we're going to do an episode on that, guys. I think it'll be a cool episode on how high level play works or doesn't work.
Yes. We
Okay,
have opinions on that matter.
We have 3 or 4 apiece.
Yes.
So,
all right. So in this first, so Jason sends multiple messages because of the limitations of the medium, only a minute at a time. So I string them together in related bits. So this is Jason on player agency from our last episode.
Hey guys, Jason here, listening to your latest episode. I don't follow this really closely, but from what I've seen or heard from Eric and whatnot talking, I don't think that Zach Smith has ever actually been charged. I don't think charges were ever actually filed. I think it's just allegations that all this is based on. But again, I kind of think it's kind of an assholes collide kind of thing. As far as agency, great coverage of that topic. I think you guys really nailed it. And it definitely come up in low-level parties with, like you say, charm spells. I always like to play it where, I let the player play it. So if a player's charmed, then, oh, you see that woman over there you're about to hit with your sword? She's now you think she's the most beautiful thing ever, and you'll do anything to protect her. And then I let the player run with that, and they have full player agency, except they have this new prime directive in their head, and they need to figure out how to follow that. So it's not the fact that the players can't choose what actions or characters take, it's just they have this new set of rules they have to use in interpreting, deciding what actions they take. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on it, but I think you guys did a really good coverage of it. And now I'm going to listen to what you have to say about bennies.
Right, so the first part, allegations. Yeah. So
that makes it worse, doesn't it? If there's no charges and they're still losing their mind over it? I mean, come on. If you did something.
It's not worse because in their minds, allegations are proof. So.
Oh, right. True. Just
but
like
to normal people, allegations are just that. You take them seriously. And then when they go forward with them, say to court or whatever, then you listen to the evidence and stuff like that. That's what normal people do.
But that's not the cancel culture way.
No.
It's like allegations. We don't like those allegations, so we're going to try to destroy you, your family, anybody we can get a hold of that's related to you, and make sure you never work again, I believe. Right. So yeah, but I mean, like I said, we talked about before. Zach Smith may be a douche nozzle. A lot of these guys that I trust on, like Jason and Eric and a few others have made some comments. So, if I were a betting man, I'd probably place money on him being a douche. But but it doesn't mean that he deserves not to make money, not to be out there selling his stuff. And people like Gen Con saying you can't come because somebody said you weren't nice. It's like, whatever, dude, whatever. I thought his player agency blip was pretty cool. I like that new prime directive. That's good.
Yeah, that's great. Especially since he basically told us we were correct, which we already knew. But it's always great to have some confirmation outside of our.
It is. I'm kind of a fan of confirmation bias. So,
yes.
I may or may not have sent Jason a very hefty stimulus check to tell us that we were correct. In the neighborhood of like $2-3. So I'm sure that swayed him.
Oh, sure. $2-3. That's money.
Jason, the check is in the mail. Don't check the mail though.
But yeah, a good player. You give them a heads up, say this is what happened. This is this is your new reality. Run with it.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And dude, if a player says to me, can I be like particularly like really try to kill the group? I'll be like, yeah, you really can.
That kind of happened. That kind of happened under your watch one time with respect to me.
Oh, did I?
I wasn't turned, but another player was.
They kill you?
And he took he pulled out all the stops. I think he bent over backwards to make sure everybody was annihilated.
Excellent. I think that's perfectly fine. No issues with that.
And everybody did get annihilated. So
that's life in the big city, baby. You're gonna play D&D. Stuff's gonna happen.
Right. All right. So just like Jason said, next is his take on our take on bennies.
Okay, guys, listen to your bennies thing. Yeah, I think it really depends on the kind of game you and your players want to have, right? You talk about scaling back in bennies in Savage World. Of course, Savage World, a lot of people say it depends on the benny economy, right? But those are people that want players to do cool things with bennies. So if you want your players to use the bennies to do these kind of cool things, depending how, I don't know, soft you want the game to be, to use your terminology, then you have to give them a lot of bennies. And then the other thing you do is you just limit how many bennies they can have. But as soon as they use them, you give them more or whatever. But that's, again, it depends how hard or soft you want the game to be. And we're into rules definitions, so we're going back to my podcast for that. But I think some games do benefit from players having that narrative ability. So my go-to sword and sorcery game is Barbarians Lemuria. And I think it does benefit from having the equivalent of bennies, because you can use them to do cool things. If you want your barbarian to be able to pick up a bench and take out 8 minions with one swipe with a bench, well, you can do that in Barbarians Lemuria, and allows that. Now, that might not be to everybody's playstyle, and that's okay. I think Barbarians Lemuria replicates Conan the Destroyer, the movie, better than it replicates Conan novels, for example. But it just depends what you want. If you want or Conan comics, right? So if you want to replicate, the Savage Sword of Conan, I think you can do that with Barbarians Lemuria. But definitely, I think it's up to the group and whatever play style your group wants, and feel your group wants, whether you should use these kind of dynamics or not. But I don't think they're necessarily good or bad or whatever. Interestingly enough, you talk about the idea of the old school rules and less rules and how solid rules are. And we're having that discussion over on the Audio Dungeon Discord right now. And the idea of, the more rules and players balking when GMs try to modify rules. There is and again, this is going to be group specific, but where you talk about, well, just because 3 has specific grappling rules, you can just throw them out and do your own. Well, yes, you can if your group's amenable to that, but there are a lot of players out there that are very adamant, hey, the rules are in the book, you have to play by the rules in the book, right? Which means they're not a good fit for my table, but it is what it is. But I think all these heavy rule sets, here I'm using definitions again, but all these rule sets with really specific rules really cater to the power of the player as opposed to the power of the GM, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. I know that he's talking about how we like bennies, but we kind of poo-pooed on them a little bit.
Yep.
And I think we're not opposed to players doing cool stuff.
Nope.
I think what you said was the win button.
Yeah, and I think you just made some good points, especially with Savage Worlds, because I did say, I was getting a little. I'm wondering in our game, and you can maybe it's worth asking this again. Do you think I'm giving away too many bennies?
Well, the thing is, you're using the rules that they have.
Yeah, but I don't have
Maybe
to.
you don't
For the
have to use the one rule where if you get a Joker, everybody gets a Benny.
Yeah,
So,
Joker's wild. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that doesn't bother me that much.
but
And I
apart
used to
from
have.
that, I don't think you gave out a whole lot.
Okay, and we haven't had a
Apart from that.
session. And the more I watch it, I think if I give a lot of bennies out, I can have more fights.
Yeah,
I probably should have more fights.
yeah.
And so maybe that'll be something I can ramp up a little bit in next couple of sessions that we're going to play this coming weekend, and then probably take a little break. Cabin Con on the horizon. Max bennies at a time. What do you think of that? So I think his implication, and Jason can correct me if I'm wrong, he made a statement where maybe you say the most bennies you can have at one time are 5 or 6.
Right.
What do you think of that?
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that could be. I'm not going to change it yet, but I think that limit of a max benny is not bad. I did like too. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm hogging the whole thing. I had a couple comments, but so do you have anything else you want to say?
No, that's fine. I think max bennies can be fine. I think you can mitigate lots of bennies by pushing the characters.
Yes, I think that's something that could be the case, and I am admittedly trying to be. I'm not trying to be soft on you guys, but I'm trying to figure out what you can do.
Right.
I mean, the truth is, I don't want to go. I mean, so throw a dragon in there. I know for sure you don't want to fight a dragon. I know that for a fact. That's not time for dragon time. I mean, you could get lucky and kill it, but probably 7 times or 8 times out of 10, you get the whole group will get murdered.
Yeah,
what did you think?
Everybody would need to be lucky simultaneously.
Yeah. What did you think about his comment that players? You talk about players balking at DMs changing rules, and while I think that's true, I mean, if you have a revolt at your table, like I think I mentioned last time about how I had you guys captured once, and all the players, you guys were just not, you were not liking that at all. You just thought it was complete bogus bullcrap. And I probably did it heavy-handedly too. That was probably part of it. I mean, I know it was early D&D back when we were, 12, 13. And I'm thinking, but if I say, hey, I'm going to change the grappling rules to this, I've played in groups or been part of where I remember growing up, the DM did do that at a whim. Like, okay, we're playing with these rules now. And it wasn't like it was up for debate. But I think, having said that, it was because usually most people are like, let's see how it plays out.
Right. So like he said, someone who would balk at it like that isn't a good fit for his table. And he's not likely a good fit for our table.
No. I mean, for a fact, someone, I mean, especially if it's reasonable, everybody at the table's okay. And he goes, we're playing the rules as written. I'm like, well, you're playing at the wrong table. I would say that right to his face right then. You need to get over yourself.
And that's also something that you learn about your players over time. You deal with on your first session or session 0, whenever you would deal with that normally. Say,
sure.
We're going to throw this out. The thing about some sorts of rules like grappling, or there could be others where you might have a character that's built to take advantage of the grappling rules as they're written.
Yes,
so
right.
So in a way you could say, well, like, so we had a session. This was when I was playing in DC. So first session, we play halfway through the session, the DM destroys the source of magic for the world.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, your wizard player couldn't cast spells.
This out of the blue, you had no warning this was coming.
Yeah, no warning. Then when he did that, he said, well, I don't know the magic rules very well. I want to learn them before using them. And so it's going to be limited. And I was like, well, I had a wizard. So it was a little heavy-handed.
How about you say, I mean, me, I'd be like, Joe, I don't know the rules. Do you got your wizard down? That's what I'd say. You're like, yeah, I know how they work. I'm like, I'm trusting you, dude. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it was a poor excuse, but at least he didn't just say, this is what I'm doing, and it's just what I'm doing. He gave some explanation. It was just kind of odd how it happened. So I can
Sounds
understand.
a little weak, actually.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go with that. I mean, I'd probably still play. I wouldn't leave, especially if it was a buddy. But I'd be
Right.
like, yeah, after like, dude, that was heavy handed.
Right.
You know, he commented something. I don't know if you've been listening to Jason's podcast recently. I've called it a couple of times. I've been a busy boy. He's got this little contest where he's trying to define. We talked about it once.
Yeah.
Rules heavy, rules light, and that's cool. But I don't want to get into that. What I thought was interesting was the statement was that basically, if I know I'm misquoting him, he'll let me know that basically a rules heavy game by default with lots and lots of rules plays more into players who want to, it gives the player the feeling of more power in the sense that they think, well, there's rules for everything. And I'm thinking 3E here. When all the rules came out, I've said this since the beginning. I thought 3E shifted the power balance, which was way over to the DMs, and they smushed it way over to the players, or at least that was the implication. Even though Rule 0 was written right in there, I mean, if you got on the boards, that was a non-starter for most people. I don't want to hear Rule 0.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm like, well, shut up. But I mean, to an extent, I think I agree with him. A rules-heavy game feels like the players have more to hold on to bring up as and it shouldn't be this way anyway, but it is because we're people and that's how we act, to use as defense. Hey, I should be able to do this because it says I can do this and I built my character to do this, and I think a rules heavy game tends to let the players have a little more control of what rules can be used. Not to say that there aren't plenty of GMs, including myself, that if I really liked the game, but I thought a few mechanics sucked, I would just punt them.
Right.
So, and that's what it would be.
Well, I can see that. I can see where he's coming from on that. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Pretty much agree. Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right. So we're moving from Benny's to, let's see here. 13th Age.
Okay.
13th Age. I've never played or read 13th Age. I've heard about it from other people, but no experience with it. But after your glowing review, I will, if nothing else, check it out and read it. So thank you for that. Sounds like it's a little story gamey, but that's okay. As far as, with limited, I'm not saying that correctly. As far as games that you can resolve campaigns quickly and go through their cycle quickly, the one that's the current darling to me that I've heard a lot of is Shadow of the Demon Lord, as opposed to 13th Age, right? But it sounds like they both kind of do the same thing. And of course, in Shadow of the Demon Lord, you level up every session. So really, it's an 11-session campaign to go through the whole thing until your characters are done their arc. But yeah, 13th Age sounds cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah, that is actually a game I've wanted to check out. Though technically, in the rules of 13th Age, Jason, there is a 10-session game, not to one-up Shadow of the Demon Lord, but it technically does. They suggest a 10-session game if you want to get through everything, letting players level after every session. So that's kind of interesting that Shadow of the Demon Lord does the same thing. And I'd seen that before. That's actually a game you might like it, Joe. It's very based upon the 3rd edition engine, no doubt.
Right. It's kind of 11 sessions. That's weird.
Well, I think the premise is you're trying to tell the story that's basically this demon lord's trying to break through and you got to stop it. But I think you could do more with it. I think that's just a kind of default assumption.
Yeah. So the assumption is you have a time limit, time constraint. So
yeah.
you do have to push through. Yeah.
But it's pretty meaty from what I've read. I mean, it's a fairly thick book, and Robert Schwab did it. He's done some good old D&D. He's done some D&D stuff that I've found pretty decent. I think he's worked on 3rd, 4th, and 5th material stuff. And Shadow of the Demon Lord is his own take on like a 3rd edition variant. Well, I won't say that for sure. I don't know, but I've almost got it. It's just a little too pricey. That's not too pricey. I guess I just didn't want to pull the trigger on a 3.x game.
Right. Well, it sounds interesting.
Yeah, we might like it.
You might like it. I think one of the things we said about the short cutoff games where you're not spending a whole lot of time in them are actually not our preference anyway.
No, I think sometimes they, a lot of it is, like I said, there's a feeling, I have a gnawing feeling in my mind that I could run 13th Age in such a way that it wouldn't be like that. But players would have to realize all bets are off. This is campaign style, and we would have to solve the problem of the dailies, because I'd want to have something that is amenable to my players, in particular, this player that I'm talking to now, and one that's also not just stupid where you get your powers back because you decided to rest. And that's stupid only in the sense that if you have one fight, and I really did that really tough because I wanted you to kind of push on, knowing there's other situations. You know what? Maybe that's not a big deal. Who gives a crap? If the players want to turtle up, let them turtle up. The more I think about it, who cares?
Right.
And you just gotta, I think maybe that'd be a good session 0 discussion, saying, because I don't want to say, look, guys, don't worry about turtling up. I won't make the encounters too tough. I'm not going to say that. I'm not giving anything away. I'm going to say encounters are going to be what I think are cool, and they don't have to be, and they may not be tough. You might have an encounter that's really weak,
but it's cool.
But it's something, yeah, right. It's not about fighting, it's something else.
Right.
And I think, and play it more like a normal campaign, which you can and people do. But I think, like you said, our experience has been, 4 encounters, session over. 4 encounters, session over. Session or 2, level up. 4 encounters, and that can get a little. And again, I'll take the blame because that's just how I feel like. I don't know what it was. I glommed onto that idea and kind of just did it. So
I wonder if you could do this Shadow of the Demon Lord at Cabin Con and play all through all 11 sessions.
Well,
that would be something.
You could do that with 13th Age. Definitely.
Right.
I mean, you have to be dedicated though. I'd have to say, I'm coming to run 13th Age. I'm running a 1 to 10th level campaign. Oh, that'd be kind of cool. And go pick your character. He's leveling from 1 to 10. Here we go.
Right.
But
that would especially be great if we had a small head count.
Yeah, it'd be hard to do with the number we're going to have this year. What it seems like this year. So yeah, that would be a cool idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So Jason has some things to say about our website. I wonder if he's actually been there.
That would be odd if someone has been.
Leaving you 16 messages sounds like I would just be trolling you. That's kind of messed up. I don't know. I don't know how many I've left so far, but I doubt I'll hit 16 this podcast. It was not planned. If I'd left you 30-second chunks, I could have easily done that probably. But I'll plan for that next time. As far as your website, I know you probably mentioned it before. Somehow I totally brain farted that. But next time that Randy or Joe, you're welcome to as well. But next time you guys call into my podcast, I'll definitely include the link to your website as well as to the podcast. So it's the least I can do.
Yeah, so that's great. We weren't actually, I don't think, hopefully he's not taking it as we're poking at him.
No, dude. Jason, that's cool, bud. That's all right, man.
We like all of you. Actually, you're making a whole other episode for us, so that's great.
Yeah, I tell you something with the website though. I'm trying to think again. I want to encourage you to listen to Tinkar's recent episode with Joe the lawyer. It's got the high level stuff we'll probably discuss in our own episode, and it's also got some stuff on this website thing. These are guys that have. I mean, Joe the lawyer had he was one of the early adopters of OSR and running a website. He was one of the big ones, and then Eric came along. Eric does a lot right now. He's a master podcast dude, and he's going to streaming more and more. And I'm thinking. I feel like, I wonder if the website, people that check blog, they claim blogging is kind of a dying thing. It's not. That people are going more to YouTube and video places streaming and making comments there than they are going reading stuff. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it sounds reasonable considering that people don't like to read much. It seems like today.
Yeah,
we're in a hurry. Go.
It might be that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very well.
But to be fair, we haven't Joe's tried to put a few things down. I need to do it. But even so, I just think, and I'm blaming anybody. If anybody is, I'm blaming me, should get in there and do more stuff. But I'm not sure if people care to do that. But maybe they don't. I don't know. Call in and let us know.
Yeah, that's great. That'll work.
Yep.
All right. So at the end of our last episode, after the entire episode was complete, after the end music, we put up a rant that we actually did before we recorded the episode because
by the way,
Joe.
Hey Joe, by the way, Deb thought that was a great idea.
Oh, good.
By the way, cool. So another plus for it. So me too, by the way, loved it.
So, and Jason has some thoughts on that. It's it's almost a 5-minute segment. So hold on.
Is it a rant on our rant?
It's not a rant.
Oh man, I was hoping. Dang it.
Maybe next time.
Maybe he'll rant on our rant next
should
time.
maybe try harder.
Yes, we're being weak sauce.
So here we go.
Okay, guys, just finished listening to your rant, and I have to say, Christian podcasters, you're going to get canceled, my friend. Just kidding. I'm just messing with you. I actually pretty much agree with you for the most part. And I've talked about this on my podcast before. I try to stay away from political stuff and social commentary for the most part. I kind of strayed into it a little bit recently, but for the most part, I try to stay away from that stuff. But cancel culture, I'm definitely against 100%. I've talked about that on my podcast. I've called into other podcasts about that before. For example, Adventure Conquer King System by Alexander Macris. It's basically been a victim of cancel culture, but it's one of the best versions of BX out there. Roman Polanski's films. Now, Roman Polanski's a piece of shit. I'm not afraid to say that on your show because I know you're not afraid of a little curse word. And I'm pretty sure you guys totally agree with me that, well, Roman Polanski's a piece of shit. But he's a good movie maker. You know, he has some talent. So you have to be able to separate the artist from the art, right? If not, how many rock bands and music bands and how much music will we really be able to listen to if we only listen to conservative artists? Not very much, right? Which, you know, is kind of a shame. But it's what it is. As far as Lamentations of Flame, for instance, for the most part, I don't like most of their modules. They're a little bit too, like you say, out there for me. But honest truth, Lamentations is one of the best versions of it's one of the best BX clones out there. The actual version of the rules that they have is well worth having, just for if you want a good BX clone. It's a really good version. As far as this Joker from Dungeon World and, you know, him being canceled and all that stuff, you know, I look at that as poetic justice. If you're going to use cancel culture against other people and then you get canceled, well, hey, I'm not going to feel bad about that, to be honest. I'm really not, because you get what you deserve at that point, right? I mean, that's straight out of a Twilight Zone episode. So what do you do with that? But for the most part, I totally agree with you guys. The state of comics is just atrocious these days. You can get, you're giving money to the companies, but there's Marvel Unlimited, which lets you read digitally all the old Marvel comics back to like the 40s or whatever. I think DC has something similar now too, because the older comics are still worthwhile. But yeah, I haven't read new comics since the 90s, I think. Paizo and Wizards. Yeah, virtue signaling and some of the stuff they pull is just ignorant. I decided not to give Paizo any more money after they pulled this whole thing with their... I'd have to go back and look. I don't have it in front of me, but they not too long ago released a campaign that was a police campaign or a city watch campaign, and then they came back and apologized because a police campaign might offend some people. You know, fuck them. You can bleep that out. I apologize for cursing on your show, but you know what? Yes, they're bad apples in the police, just like they're bad apples in any other profession, but I'm not going to damn the entire police, and the police out there have done a heck of a lot more to keep our streets safe than, well, I can't re-record this because I don't know where I started because I've been drinking. But I will not write the police off. Yeah, they're bad apples in them, but to sit there and blanketly say, we're sorry we produced a campaign where you play police, that might offend some people. Well, you know what? You produce campaigns where you play evil characters. They have straight up evil campaigns. They're not going to apologize about that. So yeah, Paizo can go suck a big one. That's not saying I won't play their games, but I'm not going to give the company any money for what it's worth. I wish I was able to hold the line and do like you guys and not give any more money out, but there are some good creators out there still. And when you get in the OSR, you'll find there's still good creators out there that aren't political, that are putting out good product, and I want to support them. So I'm not going to stop buying RPG products. Anyhow, I just want to say, I'm not telling you not to buy products or to buy products. if a company is supporting things that you don't agree with, then I think you definitely shouldn't give them money. If somebody else asks, why don't you buy that product? I think you're in full rights to tell them, hey, I don't buy it because of this, this, and that. But am I going to start a big media campaign to try to disown companies? No. And my real concern, well, I'm not going to mention my real concern in case somebody hears it. Maybe I'll tell it to you in private sometime. But I will tell you, sorry if I cursed and that bothered you. And for the most part, it was a pretty decent rant. Maybe a 6 out of 10. I don't know. It could have been a little more heartfelt. But this commentary in your rant provided to you by Beefeater Gin. So take care, and I'll talk to you later.
Dude, that was great.
Yeah, we're pretty simpatico on all that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think we have the thought of not buying, but haven't
Agreed.
stopped.
Yeah, no, especially not me. Joe's got more willpower than me. I give stuff in. I was really glad to hear that he's fighting the power against Paizo, because that's where I stand.
Oh yeah.
I'll buy their stuff third party if I want it. Probably not at all. I do want to make some comments on some of his comments, because I thought he brought up some very good things, especially against Paizo. That cops thing, I remember that when they were talking about the City Watch back in early part of the summer, late spring, and then when all the BLM garbage came about, and Antifa and all that crap, that, oh, cops might be bad. It's like, come on, everybody's not this and everybody's not that. Just people that were in BLM, they're not all bad. Everybody that claims to be part of Antifa don't necessarily want to kill people. So, I mean, I just don't know if I can accept that with the cops either. They're not all bad. They're people. And I've met plenty of perfectly fine cops, and I've met more than a few that I think should be forced off the force. But having said that, Paizo's cowardly for bailing on that, but they're more than happy years ago to do that evil version of that one campaign where you play evil PCs. So I mean, that's a classic example of, in my opinion, of the woke people and the cancel culture people. They don't mind doing crappy stuff as long as it's the crappy stuff they like.
Right. It's they have a double standard.
Yeah, no doubt. And I thought it was interesting when he talking about separating art from separating the artist from the art. I've heard that, and there's times I agree with that. And I think our one friend, I won't mention his name, ever since the election, which many folks believe was complete robbery of Trump, doesn't mean that you can prove it, but it just seemed a lot of coincidences. We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, a friend of ours who was pretty way into politics has given up on it basically, and he just said, I'm going to play D&D, and his thought is, I'll just buy the stuff. I don't care anymore. If the US doesn't care about this, I don't care. That's an attitude that can sort of be simpatico with separate the artist from the art. And I've done that with music, so I could describe myself as hypocritical, because there's some music I like to listen to that is clearly not, I mean, as a group, they're not doing good stuff. Some of their songs I skip over now when I got my podcast, but they're still there. I'm going to have my iPad, iPhone on, listen to music. But I mean, there's some songs that are pretty gross and that I don't listen to. Not gross, but more like pretty dark. And so I don't think it's a positive idea for me to listen to it. But I have done that, even though I think I'm not fond of separating the artist from the art. Not that I need a conservative person, but I don't want someone that's way crazy saying vile things.
Right. I can when I go to that bailing on something,
Yeah,
it's personal for me.
Yes, correct.
I don't like Jason said, you don't start a movement for as far as that goes.
Right.
But when I bail on something, it's like Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
He's not just someone I don't like.
No.
He's a pedophile.
Sounds like he might even be a rapist if he did rape that girl. I don't know.
And so, well, pedophile by definition is a rapist. If you're
yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So I have no problem picking out people that are really bad. And I have a hard time with Hollywood in general.
Yeah, truth.
Every time you turn around, some dark thing comes out, and it's like, well, I can do other stuff.
Yeah, there's plenty of things for us to do. I would like to know, Jason, or anybody that knows, what is the guy that created Axe, that Macros guy? I tried to look it up. I didn't work too hard. I wonder what he did to gain the ire of the woke crowd or the.
I found it on
culture.
Yeah, and I found it on Drive-Through RPG.
Right, but apparently, right, but people have like they hate him now. He's like his name is Mud or something. I don't know.
I
But
wonder how much that's hurt his bottom line, because there are actually several products out that support that I
yeah,
saw.
Adventure Conqueror King. Yeah, I've almost bought it a couple of times.
And I saw I was skimming through the comments on one of the products. I didn't do a lot of that because, of course, I'm above the comments.
Yes.
I didn't see anything negative.
Well,
So I wonder where all this. I would be interested to hear that too.
Jason had mentioned that, but so had Eric one time. Eric Tinkar had mentioned something about this McCree gas. So,
right.
Or macros.
Probably have to up the Google foo and find it out.
Thanks, Jason. That was cool. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Don't get worried about the dropping the occasional curse word. I mean, I've been known to do it. Joe might maybe on a bad day.
I might not even bleep.
Right.
That takes extra work.
We're not very bleep oriented.
No.
Yeah.
All right,
man. Is that it for the?
That's it for the call-ins.
Okay, man. Sweet.
That means we need more call-ins.
We do.
Although, Jason does a good job to help us out with filling out a whole Shorties episode of call-ins all by himself.
He really, dude, I love it. That's sweet.
It's good stuff.
What did he say? Thank you, Beef Eater Gin.
Right. What is that?
Some kind of gin. Alcohol.
That
might have been what he was sipping on.
I was thinking it might have been, but I'm not into booze, so
me neither. I just know that, so because I've seen booze.
Yeah, I've not seen it before.
I like a beer every now and again, but I'm not much for drinking. My stomach just kind of clenches up when I see hard alcohol.
Right. All right. So what are we going to be doing for winging it today?
Well, that's kind of, I was leaving that open, bud. I didn't have much to say right now. I got a lot I may want to do in the next podcast, but anything is on your mind, gaming wise?
Well, something is on my mind. It's been on my mind for a while.
Hit me.
And so in a lot of these fantasy games, and some sci-fi games, you have various different types of people, different races.
Mm-hmm.
And in the early versions of D&D, there were limitations set on the demi-humans, the non-humans, and the humans.
Right.
There were differences, stark differences.
Yes.
These days, however, any race in D&D, let's say as an example, any race can be at any class,
right?
Go to any level, and something even more odd, if you have any size character could have the same strength as any other size character.
I know.
Which is weird.
It's nonsensical, actually.
So if you have a child-sized character, they could have a 20 strength and are counted as being
without magic,
and counted as being just as strong as, say, a half ogre, who might also have a 20 strength.
Right.
Same strength.
Say halfling and half ogre. Yep, there you go.
And it's kind of dumb. It's kind of really dumb.
It's really dumb, and people get really upset because there was an article in Dragon magazine. It might have even been in the one of the original first edition books. I don't know, where Gygax put physical limitations on female characters, on halflings, on dwarfs and elves, and I think it was Dragon magazine. And people really get their panties in a wad about that. But it really is logical. Now, I'm okay with saying fantasy, let everything go, even with the halfling, but I honestly find it super weird if he's going to grapple a human, and which, I mean, third edition had some penalties for that. When you had a size difference, you would get a penalty on your grapple roll, no matter how strong you are. But if he has a belt of storm giant strength and the other guy doesn't, it would more than cancel that out, usually, if it's one size difference.
I also remember in the early days of third edition when folks were like, a halfling can have a 20 strength. That doesn't make sense. And then really people, there was I don't know how long this lasted, but the explanation from some parts of WotC, I think, was that, well, the number 20 you can have on your sheet, but it doesn't mean exactly the same thing. I'm like, well, it has the same positive and bonuses and all that stuff.
Well, that's like
it might have made a difference with encumbrance, maybe.
And there was small size, medium size, large size damage.
Right.
If you had a small weapon, talking about a halfling could have a small two-handed sword, and that's you can do that. I mean, I guess that parrots that a little, but it was pretty tedious, and I found it kind of stupid. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Why do you choose to play a halfling and then you want to be a barbarian and you want to be a wrestler? It
Doesn't make sense.
doesn't make any sense. Oh my, I think it'd be cool. Yeah, you can justify anything you want,
Sure.
but it just seems like an odd choice.
So let's say somehow you have a girdle of storm giant strength as a halfling.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going to be stronger. And you're going to be unusually strong,
Sure.
but you're not going to be born with that.
No, I mean, that's just like, because, the game has moved away from even penalties on races, I think that was,
Right.
well, wasn't that part? I mean, I don't know. In the 5e handbook, I'm not sure if any race gets penalties, do they?
It may not. I don't know.
Yeah, and
I
now
don't know
they're
those
saying
rules
like
very well.
a dwarf who normally gets +2 on con could have +2 on intelligence because he worked under this dwarven sage or whatever. And it's like, okay, then what's the point? It's just all flavoring. It doesn't matter.
Anybody can be anything.
Which means all the races are not different. There is no difference in races. Well, don't talk about culture to me. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Right.
They're just all the same sort of people. And that leads down a road that actually I would find very, well, part of our society today. We don't want to see differences in people, which I think is ridiculous.
Right. I'm of a mind to put on the reverse gear in a lot of ways.
Absolutely,
I'm
down.
Go to our own game, and I don't care. I don't care what. All else being equal, between a halfling and a human, that halfling's not going to be able to handle him in a fight, hand-to-hand fight.
Definitely not in a wrestling, a physical confrontation. Maybe if the halfling's got a dagger and he's super fast, he could be dangerous, quick, right?
Could be, but reach and okay. And I know that D&D isn't big on simulation.
Correct.
So in the real world, reach is a big deal.
Yeah, that's why they talk about it with boxers all the time.
Right, is a big deal in a fight. A dagger, or a guy with a dagger and a guy with a long sword, the guy with the dagger is in the wrong fight.
Yes.
All else being equal. I mean, if they have equal training and all that stuff.
Yep.
Even equal physical capabilities, the guy with the longer sword and knows how to use it is likely going to beat out the dagger wielder.
He's got an edge.
He's got
Serious
an edge.
Yeah.
And that's just having the weapon smaller.
Right.
You also are significantly differently sized, like the halfling is smaller, shorter stature.
Yep. Your other characteristics that define you can't be equal then, because if they are, then that little dude is going to get pounded.
Right. And I know it's a fantasy game.
Correct.
But in the fantasy game, your feet stick to the ground when you're walking on it.
Yeah, because
gravity works.
Yep. In most
gravity
fantasy
works
games.
When you drink water, you're hydrated.
Yep.
When you open your eyes, they see things.
Correct.
So there should be some amount of things that you can expect to work a particular way.
Like a person that's 3'2" and weighs 31 pounds is not stronger than a dude that's 6'2" and weighs 250. He's just not. He can't be.
Can't be normally, no. And if
really.
you're just going to say that it's magic, kind of, that to me that's kind of weak sauce.
Well, or they say, let's just use this. I go to the gym. It's hard to believe, but I do, and I lift weights. And I've seen plenty of women that are out lifting me in the sense that they're doing a higher portion of their body weight than mine because I'm a fat dude. But are they stronger than me? Absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
No way. Because I sit down to bench press 200 pounds, they bench press, 65, and I'm just like, that's impressive because you weigh, 105, but get out of here.
Yeah, they're not stronger.
No, I mean, and I'm not trying to brag, and I'm nobody special. I'm just saying that's the truth. Mm-hmm. And these women that I'm talking about, I mean, they're like fit, dude. They could be adventurers. They're fit, dude. So yeah, it's pretty hard to buy. And the whole thing about level limits is fascinating. Jason Connolly had a episode on that and had some calls on it about, why are humans considered adaptable, and then level limits came into play. What do you think of level limits with different races and stuff? Are you kind of thinking you could go back to that? And
Probably could. You could probably name a class or two that they may not have a limit in, but
that's just a conceit you could make,
yeah,
right? Because I've always thought when elves were limited like 11th level magic user, I used to think that is so dumb. They live for 800 years. They should be their old mages should be the most powerful mages of all. And I understand why their fighters wouldn't be, especially if I think the old elves were like 5 foot tall and weighed like 110 pounds. I mean, it's only so good you can be as a fighter at 5 foot tall and 110 pounds,
right.
Effectively good. You can say, well, I'm super trained. I know all the techniques. Yeah, I get it that you do, but I don't know about that.
I don't. So a 10-year-old black belt is still only 10 years old.
Yes. True.
They only have so much physical capability.
For example, use a fantasy example, Game of Thrones. Bronn, who is that mercenary that was friends to Tyrion, the little Lannister guy.
Mm-hmm.
Lannister, he's in prison. I'm not sure if you watched this far.
Yes, I did see all that.
And you saw it. So the Viper fight. Well, before the Viper fight, it was the Mountain. Tyrion had to get a second someone to fight for him.
Part where I was thinking we're talking about was when they were in
the cloud place,
the
moon base, or whatever that was.
Yeah.
No. So the situation was Tyrion got the little guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was the son. He got in trouble and he was accused of something. And as a noble, he had a trial by combat. Well, there was his father, who he was against, had the Mountain, who's this guy, 6'10", 300 plus pounds, ripped, and just destroys people.
Right.
And Tyrion's not going to fight him because he's not trained to fight. So he brought in this guy, Bronn. And Bronn is a trained mercenary who we have seen in the show is ridiculously talented. I mean, you watch the Mountain fight and you watch him fight, it's like watching two different fighters.
Right.
I mean, you're like, Bronn is 10 times the fighter the Mountain is, really. The Mountain is nothing more than brute strength. But Bronn told him, he goes, I could win that fight. He goes, here's the problem. I only have to make one mistake and it's over.
Yeah.
And this is a train, which is the truth. I mean, and that's what happened to the Viper in the fight. The Viper was 1,000 times better than the Mountain. I mean, it was not even close, but he got cocky and he got a little stupid, made a mistake, and it was over. He got killed. Boom. I mean, because the Mountain, when he gets a hold of it, it's lights out. There is it's like me fighting Andre the Giant. You have no chance if he touches you.
Right.
You're done.
You're done.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how technical, good wrestler I am. Doesn't matter.
Sure. And so our side of the argument is it doesn't make sense and sounds
correct.
Stupid.
Right.
The other side of the argument is, well, there's the people that just want to play, that that. Yeah. I want to play the halfling barbarian with a club that can take out a half ogre with one hit or whatever.
As dumb as that sounds.
Yeah, I'm going to be a 20 strength halfling because they want to take advantage of their small stature to get the armor class bonus from earlier
which might be the truth, and it could be a story thing, but it's probably I want everything. I want my cake and eat it too.
Right.
And I think you and I both are leaning back toward the old school way. And because I don't think there's there's some logic you can apply. Like I do think the D&D elves would not be good fighters. I mean, they could be archers, but I do think they would not be good fighters. I think they would have issues. If you're 5 foot and you weigh 120 pounds, if you're lucky, you can't go up against a guy that's 6'2", 240, ripped beyond belief, and is even close to you in fighting. His strength will overpower you. Blocking his attacks will drain so much more of your stamina. Just blocking his sword blows. So, but we have to decide, you can play super fantasy. If you want to do it. I've done it. I mean, for years, but I'm with you. I'm leaning toward a little more limitations. And some people will be, we'll never play an elf. Well, okay, don't play one. That's how they roll.
I think the issue is, for me, is there's no real good distinctiveness between the races. So elves aren't all that distinctive. You can just be aloof. Anybody can be aloof.
Right.
And the dwarves, just a short human, really.
Yeah, except they're kind of curmudgeon-y.
You can see in the dark.
Curmudgeon-y and drink a lot of beer.
Right. And right. So having the game rules geared toward having the races, and you may not have to limit their levels and everything to give them a distinctiveness. You might just, you could have ability score.
It's okay. Go ahead.
You might have an ability score limitations. So maybe the max strength for halfling would be 14 in the 3 to 18 scale or something like that. And you could do that for the various races. And you may not have to limit their levels severely, but limiting their stats probably would be a better way to go. You could probably do a little of both. You don't necessarily have to totally mimic the early edition limitations, but I think that you can mold those in a way that makes a little more sense. I could.
I've always said we've had friends who were really happy when D&D got away from negative modifiers. I was not, because I think there should be a price to pay for the other races. And I know in Jason's, I don't know if it was one of the original podcasts or responses to the whole level limit and humans are malleable, he made a point that he thought, I don't know if he said he thought it or if he had kind of confirmed that early on in OD&D, the races like elf and dwarf, they were consolation prizes for people that rolled poorly. They would give them a dwarf or elf so they could be kind of decent at something. So hold on a second. Give me a second here, Joe, because my dog's yammering. Hold on.
Yeah, go. Gotta let the doggy in.
All right, he wanted to be let in.
Yeah, because he can't be away from the Randy.
No, he loves Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brago.
So that's just something I've been mulling over my mind for quite a little while now. There's no real distinctiveness except cosmetically.
Yes, agreed. And that's of course kind of what a lot of people like. I mean,
yeah.
You can have I'm a cool elf. Well, you're just a kind of a small human who's really fast or really smart, and just because your name is Elf. I mean, I don't know.
Now, if you pattern the elves in your game after Tolkien elves,
right? Well, then they're better than people.
Then they're better than everybody. So then you could have you would basically no level limits and get plus 10 on all your stats.
Right, because they're ridiculous. Yeah. Were they stronger than humans too?
Who knows?
Okay.
They could walk on top of snow.
Right. So they had
drink dwarves under the table, and
so they have bird bones, yet they are super hardy and can drink a dwarf under the table. That's kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
For a game, it's nonsense. It's too good.
Right.
So what would you propose? How do you solve this? What would you like to see?
It would be simply, without going into terrible detail on any race.
Yeah.
You basically sit down and decide what your races are like, and then you pattern your. I don't know if you give penalties to the rolls.
Mm-hmm.
I would give maximums and minimums.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
So you could qualify for a race, or you could roll too high on a stat, if you aren't doing the roll in order and you're placing the stats, then you can take a little advantage of that. But
that's okay.
That's fine too. So you set limits on stats one way or another. You could do penalties, but I think it's better to do the limits, because you could still with a penalty end up with a halfling with a really high strength through normal means, especially in third edition. You just keep putting your bonus in strength and you can eventually overcome that penalty.
Yeah, and I would probably limit, like a halfling could not use a great sword, and I wouldn't have halflings as great swords.
No, you just have a short sword.
You have a short sword, or it's a long sword. Maybe that's too big. I mean, I don't know. You're really buff, so you can wield it. Maybe you have strength requirements like Savage Worlds on weapons. You got to be this strong to wield this weapon. I think that's fair.
And armor.
Yep.
Perhaps.
Yeah. How can a halfling wear? Yeah.
Full plate? No, not really. You could.
I mean, and finding someone make it to your size would be tough.
Right.
If you're tiny.
So it would cost extra money, but it might be offset by the fact that you're not using a lot of metal.
True. That's true.
To others.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I don't know. That's when you start wondering how much realism do you want in your fantasy game?
Right. So I would, the simplest way to do it is have level limits and or stat limits. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to do both, but I think if it was me, I would set some stat mins and maximums.
Hmm.
Probably pick a class for all the races to be good at. Perhaps
Yep.
you might have
Yeah.
a race that isn't good at anything to
Yeah.
get enough to get unlimited, but you
Right.
could see a dwarf probably being able to be a really good fighter.
Right.
Depending on how you envision them, they might be
Mhm.
limited depending on how you envision them.
I've never seen why any race would be limited to being a cleric, though.
Right.
That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I get that.
Unless there's a race of, atheists or people that are very hard to convince things that are.
Or maybe they're just not given to devotion.
No, true too.Maybe they just don't have it in them to be that devoted. So you could say
Right.
that too. Yeah.
They might be a follower of, but maybe not just have enough in them to receive whatever benefit a cleric would get.
True. True.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, bud. Well, this is Randy.
And this is Joe.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.
Do it.